Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
Okay, we good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Jay's all business today, folks.
Well, we're already starting late, and I know Tom.
We're out here with shenanigans. He's like, "We ready? Okay, we ready?"
All right, here we go.
We're a little behind. Okay. Well, welcome to the 57th episode of RecLess, a podcast where we're focusing on all things park and recreation through three close friends in different parts of the country. My name is Jay Tryon. I'll be your host today, and as always, I have Tom Venniro and Shane Mize with us. What's going on, guys?
What is up?
It's been a couple weeks, I think, right?
It's been a little bit.
It has. It's been some time. Yeah.
A little bit of a break. Feel a little bit out of practice here, so I don't know what your guest is going to expect of us today, but hopefully we're on our A game.
We already got scolded by Jay.
And you already got scolded by Hannah, and we didn't even start for that one.
That's right. Yeah. Get your headphones on. So, all right. I'm back in mid-season form already, to be honest. Fucking things up.
Hold on. We got to pause this.
Uh-oh.
Is your headphones on? Oh, he's got something going on. You know, that weak bladder of his, I knew was going to get us in trouble at some point.
One of these times. It's amazing that we've had 57 episodes.
That's right.
So he's darkened the screen. Can't see what's going on. We don't know if someone walked in his office, but I could tell you that
retucking in his shirt.
Our three question mark guests went off of mute for a moment there, and then he said, "Hold on, we gotta pause." So I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a relation there or not.
You think they're in the next room?
It's possible, right? Or in the same room. Maybe they're in the same
room. They did get on pretty quick.
Yeah, he did come from a meeting.
Air quotes. Yeah. This could be anything.
Okay.
Nope.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good. It's the bladder, right? We
back to normal. If it was the bladder, it would have been a little longer than that. Okay. So, you know what, Tom, you just said it. We're just going to go like straight to a different type of question because you said we've been on a break and we actually haven't talked as much as we normally would.
We haven't.
Either in between shows or just like in general. So what was the highlight for your Thanksgiving break last week?
Ooh.
I could tell you what it wasn't, and then I could try to think about what it was. So I think we've had the conversation maybe in season one. It had to be season one because that was in the fall, and we talked about our favorite Thanksgiving traditions. And I told you guys that on Friday after Thanksgiving, a bunch of us for the 29th, 30th, or 31st time have played in this turkey bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And so we play in the turkey bowl, and then we go and have some chicken wings that are some of the top-notch chicken wings around here. And yeah, so what I could tell you was not my favorite part of the weekend is that football game that I played in.
Oh, you're getting too old?
Yeah, and I'm not even the oldest there at all, but I feel so many steps behind. Like the game has just passed me by. And I'm telling you, I actually told this story to someone in my office the other day. We were just talking about like, what are the things that you think about that your mind rattles with, right? And for the next 2 days, I was thinking about plays that I left on the field. Guys, I am not a football player. I could not sleep. I'm in bed and I'm like, why was I so bad? And I got the opportunity to quarterback a team because our quarterback he didn't tear it. He just pulled his hamstring. So, second string QB, wide receiver QB comes in, and I just kept playing stuff in my mind. So I don't know. That's definitely something that I used to really look forward to. And I left the game with some thoughts of what I left on the field there.
Look at you.
Yeah.
That's really funny. I wish I could be there to just watch it.
Oh my gosh.
We could videotape it,
Or play. I would play. I'd join you. Did you guys just play touch or are you playing tackle?
No, we switched to touch some years back. And
okay.
Yeah, it's definitely changes the game, but yeah, it's touch.
I mean, there's been some times where I'd want to light you up, so I would love to go back to the days where it was tackle.
Wow.
He's back, folks.
Some brutal honesty today.
We got him. He's back. Took a minute.
Just thinking back to some of our, and that's not recent, but I'm talking like years ago debates when you would just talk about the Patriots, and I just like would want to just run across the field and light you up for bringing up the Patriots. That's all.
Kill him.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just feel that I'm way nicer about the Bills. I feel like I'm very supportive.
You are now, but you used to not be. 100% you used to not be.
Yeah, but because they weren't good. There was no discussions to be had, right?
I'm not talking about you being nice about the Bills, but I'm saying about
the Patriots being good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
But now it's funny how the tables have turned because you have nothing to say about the Patriots.
He'll talk about his 6 Super Bowls or whatever it is.
I mean, Drake May has the highest yards per carry per rush for a quarterback in the history of the NFL as of right now.
I will say Tom was...
How many wins does he have?
Not a lot.
Not the highest per. I will say Tom was incredibly gracious when Seattle lost to the Patriots in a heartbreaking fashion. He didn't beat me up much at all, in fact.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't...
Well,
yeah, off topic. All right, guys, so I'm going to leave it at at the least favorite memory of the Thanksgiving break. We'll turn it over to Shane.
Least favorite opens me up for a whole nother spectrum.
Oh, no, you don't have to answer that way. I'm just going to, that's what I shared.
Thanksgiving is my favorite week of the year, and work was more difficult. Like normally people are off and we were not battling some stuff, but we had a council meeting when we were battling some stuff that trying to get things ready and approved and answering some of the questions. So some of that week wasn't as fun as I would normally like for a week, but I love Thanksgiving Day, just relaxing. Hannah had an incredible feast for us, sat down, ate turkey, and just relaxed. I don't relax a lot. It's not my metric. And I don't have a lot of elation or joy in my life. So, but being able to sit with your family, our daughter is in Maine, so she wasn't able to come down, but to sit with my youngest 3 and just eat a meal and hang out and talk. It was just us. We didn't have any other family in, and just relaxed. I love Thanksgiving for that. And then, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's almost like 3 Saturdays in a row. You know what I mean? Like it's usually there's not work, there's games on TV, there's people out shopping. And so, I was almost too bored in some ways, but it was just great to get that forced reset that I constantly need from time to time. So I love Thanksgiving.
I'm just going to add, I am going to add something to that really quick. So, and I think what I am most fond of this weekend, it goes back to when we were having those chicken wings on the Friday after the game. An individual, Mark D'Amico, good friend of mine, he's kind of the founding family. His father founded this game and this tradition. And his sister's going through a tough time. She has cancer, and she's my age. Mark's a little older than I am. And he gave a little speech at the end, and he talked about the importance of traditions and how important it was for us to get out on that Friday morning and be together and experience that together. And obviously, Shane, just the reason that I even brought this up was because it sparked your tradition. That's amazing, right? That is a tradition. What we go through with my family now, all these traditions that we're having are starting with the children. My wife has pumpkin pie breakfast on Thanksgiving Day with the kids, right? So yeah, I think I would go with, just the tradition of that weekend it's pretty special.
Best week of the year, I think, for sure.
Remind me where your daughter is in Maine.
Portland.
Okay. So we just booked the trip. We're going back there in June. And I have not been back in several years, but I know we've talked about it. Lindsay's from Maine. We got married in Maine. But yeah, another family member is getting married. So we're going back there in June. So I'm excited to get back there.
She's loving it so far. Absolutely loving it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you talk about traditions, and we actually, for Thanksgiving, we did something we've never done before, and we went to the movies on Thanksgiving. We went to an early showing, took Piper to her very first movie.
It's Moana 2.
And went to Moana 2.
Really?
And we went on fun, Saturday. Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it was, it's funny because you always see movies come out on like Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we've just never done that, but it was a blast and the kids loved it. And it was like super relaxing. And, we went first thing in the morning before we got planned for dinner and all those other, activities that you're typically doing. So it was fun, but it's something different that I can see us doing every year from now on. If that's, if there's a good family movie that comes out.
You talk
Love
about
that.
tradition. So my grandmother used to make this essentially cheese dip. Queso down here is its own thing, right? In Texas, the Tex-Mex blend of everything. This is not queso. It's literally Rotel and Velveeta just blended, not even like heated up or anything. And it's what I grew up on. And my grandmother has been passed away for about 8 years. And Hannah just took over the tradition of making it at Thanksgiving for me. So what I love about Thanksgiving, we have a Thanksgiving meal, but after Thanksgiving meal, the day, whatever you eat the next day, it's a turkey sandwich for me with that cheese dip, and a bag of Pringles, no less. It's not even really potato chips. It's a terrible combo, but it's tradition. It's what I ate growing up as a kid. And, Hannah keeps that going for me every year. It's just those small little resets that's really cool, whether it's playing with the guys or setting a new tradition or someone passing on an old tradition. There's a lot about Thanksgiving that I really appreciate.
Well,
Cool.
sorry, guest and listener. I have one more question for you guys
Oh,
off of
okay.
Jay's question. We just talked about food and movies, two of my favorite things. What are the two of yours? Just kind of curious, and I don't know, Shane, actually how much of a movie guy you are, but we went on Saturday after to see Moana, and that could be kind of a cool tradition I could see for our family going forward, is maybe the Saturday after try to hit a movie. But what's your favorite movie snack? And I mean, for me, I'm a movie butter popcorn guy. Like that might be my favorite snack in general. Like I love movie popcorn with that terrible butter or whatever it is. It's delicious.
Yeah, it'd be tough to beat popcorn, but if it's not the obvious popcorn, there's something about peanut M&Ms in a movie theater that I always really appreciate. They come in those little square blocks.
Yeah.
You can't get those boxes of candy anywhere else than a movie theater. I don't know what the idea is on that. Everywhere else it's a bag, but it's these little UPS boxes or whatever that they give you. But it's great to have a little peanut M&M.
I'm going to throw one out there that you might have
Ice
either
cream.
never had, or you're never going to think that this would be someone's go-to. But I am a typical, I go to the movies, I bring the same candy, and it's Dots. I love Dots. So,
that's a movie theater popcorn for sure.
That's my thing. I like popcorn too, but I like Dots.
You know what? Next Halloween, I'm going to take all the Dots we get, put them in a package, and send them down to North Carolina.
Yeah. And I think for me, they last longer in a movie for some reason. So, but
they last longer everywhere. They were probably all made in 1927. No one's eating those fucking Dots but you.
They last long when you eat them too. You don't actually officially get them out of your mouth
That's
for at least a week.
Yeah. Okay, we got to let this guest get in here because they're probably wondering why they even joined the show today. So our guest today has worked in the industry for over 15 years in a variety of roles. But the funny thing is they actually just very randomly fell into the career because their mother-in-law saw a job posting for a fitness coordinator position in the newspaper. That's how they learned about their first job. They are very active in their state, including serving on their state board. They are an avid runner and compete in several races every year.
Just like Shane?
Just like Shane.
Yeah, we'll talk about running techniques later.
This person is a constant presenter, both at NRPA and also a variety of different state conferences. But the fun fact about that is 10 years ago, they were absolutely terrified of public speaking. And they have presented alongside two of our former guests. Okay?
Hillary?
That is, you are on, man. I got a couple more facts, but I'm going to let her
What's up, girl?
But yes, so today's guest is the Director of Recreation Services for the Apex Park and Recreation District in Colorado. Please welcome Hillary Roemersberger. How you doing, Hillary?
Did you guess that so fast?
I don't know how, but I do that well. I usually, and I was thinking it could have been you because of the fitness side, and then two guests would have been Kuhn and Stutzman. So I was like, okay, maybe that's
by power of elimination. Yeah.
Well, and Maria, she did stuff with Maria too.
Oh, I didn't know you presented with Maria too. Okay,
sure did. Yeah.
So actually more than 2, but man, I had like 3 other things I was going to get to, but you are just like,
you know how
today.
when you watch, is it Jeopardy or whatever, that you actually have to say it correctly, or is it Wheel of Fortune, where even if you get it, if I would have had to say her last name, we'd still be struggling.
I was going to say Jay was close. He's getting a 9 out of 10. He was close.
Okay.
I would not have been able to say it. That's why I just said Hillary. I could have gone Hillary R.
Yeah, if you get it right, it's like bonus points.
Yeah.
Nice. It would have been bad for me to just be like, it's Hillary R. So I had to take a stab at it.
Honestly, I think people would have probably been like, oh, it's that chick with the long last name. It would have been okay. Yeah.
Well, I was going to get to a couple facts about aquatics, and that is one topic that I want to dive into first. And I know you guys probably saw it, or maybe you didn't see it, but just last month, she actually opened the Arvada Aquatic Center, which I saw a video. It looked amazing. I'm sure it's been amazing for it to be open finally after long, long time of getting that going. But first off, what's been the first couple weeks been like? And tell us about that process of, what that's been like over the last couple of years, getting that facility planned.
Absolutely. So we are so excited. This project has been a very long time in the making, starting back from the IGA. So this is a 3-way partnership between Apex, the City of Arvada, and Jefferson Public Schools. To give you a little context, it took us about 6 years to even get to an IGA to agree that, yes, us 3 partners are going to work together to build this. And we finally signed that about 3 years ago. And from design to construction, we opened our doors here a couple weeks ago. We're super excited about this. It is a competitive natatorium with a 50-meter competitive pool, as well as a 25-yard auxiliary pool. It is a premier facility. It's one of the few in the state. And to give you a little bit of a history, it's replacing a pool that was built back in the 70s. So we had our George Myers pool, which anybody in the swimming community, especially in Colorado, are very familiar with. It meant a lot of things to a lot of people. We've had over the years folks that have made the Olympics, the Olympic trials, both on the dive and swim side. And that building, as you know, with old pools, had just seen the end of its lifespan. So we worked together with our partners in the community to get this project built. And we opened our doors, to your point, a couple weeks ago. So it's been really, really exciting. It's new construction. So there are always, logistically things to kind of work out and figure out. But overall, our swimmers are happy to be back in the water. It's a beautiful facility. We think there's some real opportunity, not only for it to be a premier facility in the state of Colorado, but one in the region as well.
That's incredible. John posted some stuff about it and was super excited about it. And so I was living vicariously through him. And I have taken a rec camp tour where I saw Hillary up there, and we didn't know that we would see each other ahead of time. So it was a great surprise to see her at the Apex. Was that the facility we took?
Yeah, you came through the Apex Center and I believe the Seacrest Center as well.
Yeah. And those are some incredible facilities with the ice rinks and everything else that you oversee. But aquatics is interesting. It's not something we've talked about a lot, and it's something others lean heavily into us as an industry on. And I think there's a couple reasons for that, but I'd love your perspective, because you don't see ISD, well, what we call ISD, you don't see school districts, high school area school districts in and of themselves normally have an aquatic facility. And if you do, they almost still have to steal from our industry to run it. But you see in a lot more cases, they partner with or lean into local government. Is it because these facilities are so tough to manage, one, they're so tough to recover costs on, two, or that their niche is sometimes used in the wrong, I don't want to put it in a negative light, but it's a smaller population in anything, right? Open tennis, open jiu-jitsu, open running versus high level at that level. There's a much smaller population that does that. But when you're doing an open jiu-jitsu or high-level jiu-jitsu, it's the same mat, right? If you do open running or Olympic running, you're running on a track. Here, you can't be an Olympic high-level athlete on a 20-yard pool. You need the 50-meter whatever pool or whatever. And so I think in some ways, maybe that's the reason. But why do we lean so heavily, or why do we get leaned into so heavily for the oversight and the providing of aquatics at even the highest levels?
I think you hit it right there. I think it is a mixture of the two, right? I think it, as you know, aquatics in general, but especially competition pools, are heavily subsidized, right? And so I think, from a school board perspective, their priority is towards education. But Having said that, Colorado is very heavy into athletics, and we need somewhere to put our high school athletes. With this pool alone, we host 5 of the local high schools, but we will see 15 of the 17 schools kind of throughout the swim season. And so I think this is one of those situations where our kids need somewhere to practice. We need somewhere to build those skills and get these kids to the next level. But you can see why a school district might be reluctant to take something like that on. And we started this IGA process. We actually met with the superintendent, and she had come from a neighboring county where their school district actually does run their aquatics facility. And she was pretty clear that school districts are not in the.
They're not built for it.
Yeah, they're not subject matter experts, and she wanted nothing to do with the operation. So I think it was really unique, this partnership, and that, these things are not cheap to build, right? And so we had a great partner with the city of Arvada and the school district who helped co-fund the project. But Apex, as their contribution, will take on the subsidy. So year after year, for the length of this pool, we will be even partners in this. But I think that that's why you see your school districts really lean heavily into us, because at the end of the day, we are the subject matter experts, right? I don't think people would want me teaching their kids. And so on that other thing,
Right.
Let the school districts do that and let us house the athletes and provide a great opportunity for them.
It's so interesting because, like, a high school in Pflugerville, we will build a multi-million-dollar football facility that rivals what a lot of colleges will have, and 3 high school teams will use it Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. It'll sit all week, but we don't have the stomach necessarily to do that for a pool facility, right? And in fact, the tennis team and the track team and the football team all have an ISD. I keep saying ISD. I think that's more of a Texas lexicon, but they all have a school district facility. But most of the swim teams across the state of Texas go to their local parks department. And so either they've contributed to it or they're just paying some sort of fee to use it, but they don't always want to build and manage that stuff. And I've always found that to be quite interesting. And it puts us in an interesting situation. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes we get over leveraged in some of that stuff, because you're absolutely right. It's subsidized. Like and I don't think the public understands that. The public always wants you to just build a world-class pool facility. You can make money off of it. The 10 days you host a tournament, you may recover your costs, but the other 340, you're not necessarily going to recover those costs. And I don't know if everyone understands that completely. So I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, you hit it there again, because I think people walk into this facility and say, oh, you're going to make so much money. And it's like, well, we're going to try not to lose a lot of money is really kind of our goal. But that was part of the intent of building the 25-yard auxiliary pool. Not only does it create a warm-up space for when we do host meets, more importantly, it's providing Apex with a programmatic space where we can kind of fulfill that mission of helping kids learn how to swim. It can host our recreation swim programs and things like that to help us kind of offset some of those expenses associated with running this.
So it's a little different up here. And Hillary, we've never met, so it's a pleasure to have you on here. That's and funny. To be able to talk to you.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, nice to meet you. So aquatics is a little different in my neck of the woods.
Y'all skate on them, right? Y'all skate on top of them. That's what y'all consider.
We do have some of that. We skate on canals, lakes. You name it. You can skate on it. Our pool out back right now has a frozen cap, which usually at this time in December, we don't get there, but it's been rather cold. In my area, though, in the Western New York area, municipalities do not have a lot of water aquatics facilities. It is all through the schools. The more downstate you go into Long Island, it changes a little bit, especially when you're talking about outdoor facilities. A lot of those municipalities have outdoor facilities, and so it's new to me, right? And I believe with our partnership with the school, so for those of you out there who might partner with a school district who own the aquatics facility, you see a lot of the challenges that they go through. You experience on our end when we're trying to program through the school's facility when they have to close the pool for maintenance or upgrades. You see the fight from the other individuals who are trying to get in and access the pool. And so I think there's a lot of trepidation in individuals or agencies who don't have those aquatics facilities of saying, gosh, I don't know if this is an undertaking that, and of course you hear about lifeguards and the challenges of staffing, right? And so I guess that would be my question for you is, if you can talk us through a little bit of the challenges of running an aquatics center for those out there who are maybe interested in pursuing one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I think at least here in Colorado, it is very much the heart of Parks and Recreation. Colorado, as you can imagine, is a very active state. We like to be outdoors. And while our aquatic summer season is extremely short, people care a lot about their pools. Our agency had recently done a strategic plan here about 2 years ago. And even though we have a lot of facilities and a lot of aquatic opportunities across our district, access to pools and outdoor spaces and things like that rose to the top. And so in our community, while we recognize aquatics is something that is subsidized, it is something that without it, I don't think we'd be much of a Parks and Rec district. My particular district was established back I believe in the 50s. And it was established because we had had a couple drownings in the community. And the community felt that it was really important to contribute some tax dollars to Parks and Recreation to help kids swim. So here at Apex, we are based on the philosophy of it is our job and our role in the community to provide safe water opportunities and help kids learn to swim. And so here, I think we had a ton of support for aquatic facilities, but I know we have some partners kind of within our state that are facing, aging pools that are looking like they need to be replaced. And while the community strongly supports the idea of, yeah, we need a new pool with all the fun fixings, the funding is another piece of it, right? They are expensive to build and maintain. And so sometimes there is a little bit of a challenge, I would say, between the community's understanding of what it costs to actually operate these things safely and successfully versus just being able to build it and say, cool, we've got this great pool. You talked a little bit too about the staffing challenges. We were not shy post-pandemic to the problems that everybody else is having with regards to the national lifeguard shortage. We have definitely come out of that. But that took a lot of culture work within our full-time aquatics team. We really took a deep dive into, getting back to what makes it fun to be an aquatics professional. It can be stressful. And, we put so much pressure on these young lifeguards to really have a first responder kind of mentality, right? This is not, and no offense to our front desk workers, they are the core of what we do in Parks and Rec. They have to know everything and they have to be able to take on a lot. But we're really entrusting a 15, 16, 17-year-old to go in and save lives. And so, I think it's finding that balance of prioritizing safety in your facilities, but also increasing staff culture to make it a fun place to work. So, we're fortunate in that the last couple of years have been fully staffed. In fact, we've almost had too much staff. So it's a great problem to have. But, I think that that's another challenge that the industry is kind of facing. So, I think there are a lot of things to it, but when it works really, really well, like it's a great asset for your community.
Well, aquatic facilities are obviously, as Shane mentioned, fascinating. You talked about the maybe not revenue, making as much revenue necessarily as just trying not to lose on the facility. And so just kind of a follow-up question to that, when in our situation, we're running and we're programming for lessons and family swims and adult swims. And we're doing that and trying to fight with the school who obviously has their aquatics, the teams, the scholastic teams. And then of course there's continuing education that they have programs too. So, and then we actually also have, youth swim groups, which that's a little foreign to me, right? Like I didn't grow up I grew up playing sports, but not as a swimmer. And so there's youth swimming organizations, just like there is soccer and baseball. And so what kind of usage are we talking about for a facility like that? Like, I mean, is it 24/7? Not obviously it's going to be closed at times, but when it's open, is there always people in that pool? Are they always fighting to get access?
Yes. We are fortunate here that we have a few successful club teams. So the North Jeffco Hurricanes, I'm sorry, they're not the Hurricanes anymore. The North Jeffco swim team is 300 plus strong. And so that's one of actually our private club teams that take up a large majority of our lanes in the evening. We also partner with the Mile High Dive team, which is a premier dive team, not just in Colorado, but they're pretty well renowned in the region. They actually have had some athletes make it through the Olympic trials. And so they were a great partner in this program as well, in that their 501c3 that they have set up, Pools for Kids, actually donated over $500,000 to build a premier dive well. So where you go into a typical natatorium, high school CHASA calls for just 1 meter springboard. This facility actually also has a 3 meter springboards, a 3 meter platform, and a 5 meter platform. The only other public entity that has that is the Air Force down in Colorado Springs, which is difficult to get into. And so that's going to, I think, be an opportunity for us to tap in as a regional leader for some really competitive dive. On that note, we have a very, on the other side, robust swim lesson program here at Apex. Like I said, we were founded on teaching kids how to swim. So we have a very robust program here. We have a very popular master swim program. We do aqua fitness. And so, yeah, when we are open, all of our lanes are taken. We are already having requests for special meets as far as 2030. So
Jeez.
people were excited about this project. People are kind of lining up, and we've got now water polo teams kind of coming to the surface, saying, "Hey, we want time." And so I think it's kind of crazy to people because when you walk in and you see how big this facility is, when you come in here at 4:30 at night after school, there's not a lane or an inch deck space to be had. So there definitely is a need in this community. And I really do believe that we're kind of a leading example for some other rec agencies out there that have been talking about this, but really didn't have anything to kind of base it off of. So I really do actually think that we're set up to be really a premier example, not just in the state of Colorado, but for other agencies looking to build something like this.
And before Jay hops in, I think it's interesting, Tom, you said 24/7. So obviously people aren't on lanes at 3 a.m., but unlike even your ball fields that you can let go and you can let out of season, you don't have to water them as much.
Sure.
You can let them grow a little bit more. You can't ever let these things grow. You can't let a pool go green. You can't. So it's always being maintained. So when you're talking about access to it, maybe access it 24/7, but it's being
Sure.
maintained and cleaned and chemicaled like someone's using it at 3 a.m. Like it's constantly being, even when the facility's closed at night, there's pumps and there's things going on. And you want to scare a park and rec professional who knows nothing about aquatics, take them into a pump room at one of these facilities. looks like you'd think like NASA or something, like all these pumps and things. And, like where is all this going to? But yeah, it's that I think that's the cost of it all too. I mean, not only do you have a lot of lifeguard costs and staff costs, but all the chemical and the maintenance stuff.
Yeah, I think that's funny that you say that because I explain to people all the time that operationally, we open at 5:30 in the morning. We're usually closed by 9, but I'm fully expecting potentially a phone call sometimes as early as 4:30 in the morning and as late as 10:30. And now, because they're getting all fancy on us here, a lot of our systems are automated and set for alarms. So while I hope to not get an alarm at 2 a.m., it is not out of the realm of possibility that may be something that occurs here and then, because pools do like to break. And anybody in aquatics knows they all have their own personalities. So there isn't just a one-step approach to I can't treat my indoor wellness pool like I treat my competition pool, like I treat my recreation, just outdoor fun pool. They all have different personalities. They all like different set points. And they all like to get a little cranky once in a while.
And temperatures matter, right? Swimming in 79 degrees versus 81 degrees and it takes hours to raise a temperature up. So if overnight it's dipped or gotten too high, the course correction on that isn't just, we can just turn this nozzle and this thing happens.
So Shane just gave away a trade secret. And so a lot of the times when people complain about the temperature, especially our aqua fitness, my very first AFO, I learned this little trick that when they complain about the temperature in the water, you just go stand in the pump room for 10 minutes and then you come out and say, it's fixed. Doesn't it feel warmer? So you kind of just put it out there. You just expose that.
It'll take hours to actually do it. But that's the truth.
Hearing is believing.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember hearing a lot of those conversations when I was in Mecklenburg County, is because you got the lap swimmers wanted at one temperature, the leisure swimmers wanted at this temperature, the classes wanted at this temperature, and it's
seniors wanted at a different temperature.
Yeah. I mean, how do you truly please everybody when some of these differences, and it may not sound like a lot to us that aren't swimmers, that what's the difference in 2 degrees? But 2 degrees to an avid swimmer is significant, which I don't get it because I'm not a swimmer, but to some other people, it really is a big difference.
Yeah, but it's a similar, like you mentioned earlier, I'm an avid runner. I'd much rather run in 58 than 70, right?
Right.
And so totally. I think it is that same kind of principle. The nice thing about having 2 pools in this particular facility is that our competition pool, we're able to set at a lower temperature, right? Because those competitive lap swimmers really do like it colder. 79, 80 is a little too cold for my blood, but they like it, right? With our warm-up pool, we're able to increase the temperature. That one is sitting at about 83, 84 degrees. So your more casual lap swimmer, your aqua fitness participants can be comfortable. But,
and 25 yards, you said, right?
Yes, 25 yards.
So that's plenty to get a workout in as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of facilities only have that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, we're lucky too with the district that we have several different facilities with different bodies of water. And so we also have a warm water wellness pool at one of our other locations for our folks that really use it for therapeutic needs. And then we have all our play pools that are set a little bit warmer just because they're just more for, your smaller kids coming with their mom and dad to come swim. So we're lucky in that regard, but you're right. Everybody is particular and everybody likes a little bit different. But the nice thing about having two pools here is at least we have some compromise, right? As far as like pleasing as many user groups as we possibly can.
Well, I got one final question on this topic, and I'm just curious because you've been open now for about a month.
Yep.
If there is someone that's listening to this that's getting ready to open a facility in 6 months or a year or even 2 years, what's been the biggest takeaway your first month, or biggest like aha moment that like, wow, we really should have thought about this, or I'm so glad we did think about this for your first month of being open?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's really important that you just have a strong team, right? Construction is construction. And, for the most part, we stayed on track. We had a very unseasonably dry winter here in Colorado. And so construction was actually able to kind of stay on pace. But, when it was time to open, we were all kind of scurrying to that finish line. So I think having a strong team around you to help like carry the load and get the facility up and ready, because while it's not going to be perfect, you want it to look as great as that it can kind of look. I think you got to be patient. Like I said, these pools do have their own personalities. And so you're not going to like hit it right on the first time. Like you're going to walk in and the boiler has tripped or your chemicals are off or it's overfed. And so you got to have a little bit of patience as far as just dialing in what the pool's personality is and what it really likes. But even going back to design and construction, really entrusting the design team and getting those experts around you. I'm very fortunate. I have an aquatics manager who comes from a competitive swim world. She was a high school swim coach for many, many years and led her teams to state. I actually have another full-timer who is a Division I swimmer. He has set pretty much a lot of records up at his high school. And so having those people with a sharp eye for competition swimming has been really important in that design process as well, because they see things in a different lens than say your average kind of recreation professional. So, I think it depends on kind of what pool you're kind of building, but patience is key, and having the right people around you to make you successful, I think is super important in the process.
I got a 2-question special, what we call a Tom special. You're talking about hard things. So you kind of just fell into this industry in some ways on the fitness side and have
literally,
and you've matriculated your way up to this recreation director level. And so, how do you get staff to push past what they think is their capacity, the hard moments? And I'm sure you've had a lot of hard moments where you have to gather the troops up and get them to go past, what they think is their barrier, what they think is the end of their capacity. And then the second question is, what do you do? Not when you're leading a team, but what do you do when you've reached these hard moments? Because I imagine there's been some moments that you looked up at the wall and like, what am I doing? Are they trusting me? This is crazy. I'm sure we've all had those moments. So what do you do in the hard moments to get you to overcome it? And then how do you lead staff to do that?
I always tell my team, like, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? And so that we're in this kind of together, and that, I think just having that mutual respect for one another. And, I have a rule of thumb that when we're having like tough days and things are hard and you've got a million things going on at once and every pool is breaking or whatever, it doesn't even have to be in aquatics, that we're all entitled to our bad days, but we can't all do it at once. So we kind of have to take turns, right? So I know it's corny, but I am kind of on the lead by example kind of director. I am not scared to do the dirty job. So whether that's getting in a surge pit and finding a leak or deep cleaning equipment or whatever, I think that lead by example mentality kind of helps kind of rally the troops as far as getting people kind of motivated. I think giving people grace, for like, hey, we're all going to have bad days and sometimes life just stinks and it's hard. But I also think taking it back to why we do parks and recreation, right? Like there are aspects of our job that are fun. And yesterday I had a very like Parks and Rec, the TV show moment in a meeting I was in to where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm in the show. But at the end of the day, our jobs are really, really fun. I think the satisfaction is being able to open the doors and just see how excited people are. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen people that we haven't seen like as the district in 20, in some cases, some of our coaches are saying, I haven't seen this kid in 30 years, right? And people coming back into the facility and just seeing it kind of like in this rebirth. And so for me, that's been really motivating, not just for me as a professional, but I think for my team as well, to really think of like, look at what happened when we worked together and we really accomplished this. And to your point, was every day easy? No. Were there days where we might have had to take a little break. There is a beauty of a pump room, right? Because you can kind of go in there and like hide for 10 minutes and just kind of read
Scream,
through.
cry, yeah.
Yeah, cry, do whatever you need to do. So we've all had a pump room moment, but I think at the end of the day, the reward is just seeing how happy people are and what a great like impact and like how many memories people are going to make in our facilities.
I love that you say that, everyone can have bad days, but they all can't have them at the same time. Like if someone's being an ornery bastard and you're just like, nope, sorry, Shane's already the bastard for the day. You're going to have to pick your shit up. Like you're going to have to, we're only allowing one today. I like that.
That's always been my rule. And if it's me, I'm coming in hot.
Right.
I tell them like, today's my day, people. So
right.
figure it out.
That.
Yeah.
We say at times in Pflugerville that you're going to be exposed to the range of emotions. You don't have to embrace them all, right? Like sadness, happiness, joy. You don't have to experience every one of them. You're going to be exposed to them. How you interact with them is what you can control. So
yeah, there were definitely a couple moments in towards the end of this project where I said like my inside voice accidentally came out. So there would be times people would be talking about this, and this, and I would just be like, everybody just calm down. And then I realized I meant to say that inside. Right. So there were a couple of those moments where I exposed my emotions.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Can I switch gears a little bit? And I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of your coworkers who we had the pleasure of talking to. When was that? A few months ago?
Yeah, the crossover.
So yes, the crossover with what's it called? Apex
Activated
the podcast. Yes, Katie and Monica. A lot of energy.
Yes.
In that duo, right? A lot of energy. And I don't know that we really because it was kind of a crossover. We didn't really. I don't know if we were being interviewed, if they were being interviewed. Who knows, right? So I don't think I asked some great questions there. I felt like we were more on Hillary's side of it that day. But I do want to know, ever since we've talked to them, in the sense that it's a Apex activated, right? So it's coming out of your agency. What do you feel? And I guess hopefully you have some interactions with the podcast. I assume you do. And so what has the podcast done for your agency and for your community? That's what one of my questions was after the show. Like, we know obviously what we're doing. We're trying to reach and tell the story of as many Parks and Rec professionals or related individuals to other Parks and Rec professionals all around the country or wherever. In your case, or in the Apex activated case, it's a little different. So I just wanted to know, like, what has that done for the morale of the department, the area, and for the community?
Yeah, so they streamlined their podcast a little bit different than you guys, where you guys are geared more towards your Parks and Rec professionals. Our role is really highlighting what other people are doing in our community. And so I think from not just Apex standpoint, you start to learn about all of our community partners and how they kind of got started. And you start to realize that Parks and Rec really does overlap so many different areas. And so, while you might be doing a podcast with the mayor to talk about the next initiatives, 100% Parks and Rec sometimes kind of plays into that. Our mayor comes in and works out at our facility all of the time. When we had our grand opening, she was the first one to get in and do a cannonball. And so I think what it's done really for Apex is, we're not necessarily focused on so much of like, oh, what's Apex doing? Because I think we're very well known in our community. We're very well respected. We have really great numbers as far as community buy-in and participation. We have a very active and vibrant community. What I think it's done is highlight the importance of some of these more behind-the-scene partners and really highlight some of the great work that they're doing and showcase some of that overlap and how Parks and Rec really does impact different areas of your life, whether or not you know it or not.
I think with our podcast too, we've had some byproducts that we didn't expect. And I almost see that with what you had just kind of described, is that it's just a really nice way to boost the morale of the individuals in your community, maybe your agency as well. And so have you seen that? Have you seen like the pride from those individuals who are, spotlighted or guests on the show, and maybe some unexpected byproducts of having the podcast?
Yeah, I would say so. And, we were even saying, because we listen as a staff when they come out, while we're doing our work, and you really get to learn some stuff, really cool stuff about people that you might not necessarily expect. I think that's so cool about the work that we do. I don't know about in your guys' respective agencies, but a lot of people in Colorado really didn't start in Parks and Recreation. Like you mentioned, I was actually in clinical setting and then found this clipping. Well, my mother-in-law found this clipping in the newspaper, and I just landed in Parks and Recreation. And so for me, it's really cool to hear, not just within the world of Parks and Recreation, how people kind of found their career, but it's been cool in the podcast to kind of hear how people have gotten their start and, what kind of impact Apex has had on them, not just maybe personally, but professionally as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the concept of learning a little bit more about the individuals. Like that's kind of what we do on this show, right? We learn so much about a Hillary or whoever the guest is that we wouldn't have known just by having a normal conversation at a conference.
Well, yeah, and I think too, and you guys probably feel this way too, like Parks and Rec is such a small world. And it's just, there's so many weird coincidences and people that know people. And even though when you go to the national conference and you got 10,000 people there, it still feels really like small and connected.
I agree. Talking about Apex and just kind of the impact y'all have on y'all's community. When I was up touring the Colorado Rec Centers for Rec Camp, BRS's Rec Camp, we got to obviously see y'all's facilities, got to see some other facilities. Colorado has some incredible park and rec facilities. Is that due to the districts? Or I know that they have the marijuana funding sources. I don't know if that gets used for Parks and Rec. I think it was schools and roads for sure. But like, what are the funding sources that you are using? Because what Colorado leverages, you see very few other states with those types. I mean, you'll go to a town of 8,000 people and it's got a rec center that towns in Texas even don't have 50 or 60,000. They're incredible.
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned earlier, obviously Colorado is very vibrant community. Recreation, both indoor and outdoor pursuits are super important in our communities. And so you'd be hard pressed to find a community in Colorado where you go and they don't care about Parks and Rec in some way, shape, or form, right? So we'd have a lot. I think when people move to the state or live in this state, they recognize the importance of the impact that Parks and Rec kind of have. I grew up in Illinois, and so I remember as a kid having access and then moved to the Washington area where there wasn't as much. It was, for me at least, my experience was more private sector. But when you come to Colorado, to your point, almost every community has some sort of, Parks and Rec, some sort of role in their community. We are funded differently, kind of depending on where you go. A lot of Parks and Rec agencies are city affiliated or associated with their municipal government and are typically funded by sales tax. There are that are funded to some degree, do get some of that marijuana tax, but it's not actually, I don't think a lot. I couldn't tell you the percentage, but some communities more than other. We are unique in that we're a special district, which some states have, some states don't. But basically, we're in a great boat where our taxpayers have found Parks and Recreation to be so important that they dedicate a tax in addition to what they pay the city government to help fund our recreation. And so we're fortunate. There is something to be said for special district. I, worked in municipal prior to this, and I think there are pros and cons to both. But a unique thing about special district is it's just Parks and Recreation, right? And so though you're not fighting for some of those other essential resources. So, we're unique in that kind of role. But depending on the different communities you go, it's a good mix. I would say a majority of our agencies are associated with city or municipal town government, but there are a large fraction of us, and some of the biggest agencies in Colorado are special district.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that, and we've talked about it a few times when we've had guests from Colorado. I know when we were talking with Aaron, like I've always been blown away every year when there's the gold medal list comes out or new accredited departments get listed. There's always a number of folks from Colorado. And, when I think of some of the leaders in our industry, like there's some departments that come to my name right away or come to my head right away. And I've thought about, Parker, and I think about, we've talked about with Ryan Hennigress when he was with Westminster. And, there's just some really dynamic departments. And I went out to Colorado 3-4 years ago and we visited, my wife and I went to like 3 different rec centers and parks and trails. And it's just like, I think part of that is what you said, like the public values what we can provide at such a high level that there's always overwhelming support. And that is so beneficial for us as professionals to know that we have that support.
Does that mean there's not a lot of private sector? Do you still see a lot of Gold's Gyms and other places there? Are they just so leveraging into the public sector that you don't even see a lot of the private fitness?
Definitely a lot of private sector. And so, I think it kind of depends, but and I think there's a place for the private sector, right?
Sure,
I think sometimes in Parks and Rec, we're almost a little guilty of trying to be everything to everyone. And sometimes we throw things up on the wall that maybe we don't have the business doing. So I think we're pretty strategic as far as knowing what we do best. We know that we are probably the subject matter expert for the most part when it comes to swim lessons. We know that we can provide high quality sports leagues. And it's not to say the private sector can't, of course they can, but we can do it. And we can usually do it a little bit more economically. I think one of the other things that we kind of face, we have rising expenses just like everybody else is seeing. And so, we do have to charge fees for things. And I think sometimes Parks and Rec get a little guilty of like, oh, well, we just have to charge like super cheap, right? Because we're Parks and Recreation. It's like, well, let's not undervalue what we do, right? So I think that there is still that market to be competitive with the private sector. I think it depends on what it is, and it depends on what your mission is, and how your either councils or boards feel about certain things. But I think we're just as good as anybody else, if not better, in a lot of things that we provide. So while we have that competition, I don't necessarily think I think we have our own space in our community. And what I love most about Colorado is I think it's a forward-thinking kind of group when it comes to Parks and Recreation. We have so many talented individuals. But what I absolutely love about Parks and Recreation is we are not in competition with one another. We help each other out. We rise, when the pandemic was hitting, the phone calls I would make to other, directors being like, hey, what are you doing here? How are you doing this? And it's so collaborative. It's not, we're trying to be better than this agency or that. So it's what I really enjoy about the work that we do.
You touched upon, well, Shane, the question you asked, just kind of a byproduct of that I think about is how we went to Oklahoma, whenever that was, about a month ago now. And so Oklahoma is not too far away from Texas, not too far away from Colorado. From what we experienced,
but miles away, Parks and Rec wise.
Yes, exactly. From what we had the conversations with the individuals, the great individuals that we had talked to, they had, basically letting us know that the system is completely different than what we all are probably used to, but also that the state, and I know there's some politics here, but the state isn't necessarily as supportive of Parks and Recreation. So you would almost think that, hey, if you're a professional and you want to move in this field and you want to move to a state where you think you feel you're going to be supported no matter what, it'd be hard. I would assume you're hard pressed to find any kind of state elected official who does not support Parks and Recreation, right? Because people move into that state because of the recreation, right? That's literally why people go there to vacation or move. So here it's 50-50. We have some support in New York, but it's also a challenge at times. And what we see a lot of our agencies do, they have to go out and bond projects. And so you're going to be raising that tax levy for whatever it is, 25-year bond or 10 years, whatever the project is based on the size. Do you have to do, I know you're a special district, but do you have to do any of that where you're bonding out projects, or is the support that great that it's not necessarily an option?
No, we certainly bond projects. And in fact, that's why I actually came on at Apex in 2018. So I started in January of 2018. And part of it was as part of a major bond initiative. We were building several new facilities. So we go big or go home here at Apex. So at the time, we built a tennis center. We built a splash pad. They brought me on to open 2 new rec centers. We did some work at one of our fields. So we actually packaged it up real nice and pretty for the community and really went out there. So we certainly do that. So do other agencies. They put, a lot of times special districts, when they go out and ask for a mill levy increase, things of that nature, sometimes they'll put a sunset on it. Sometimes it's in, for forever. So we certainly still need that support, right, from our taxpayers. I wish our general funds were set up that we could just build things kind of on our own, but it costs money to operate these things and keep them pretty and nice for our community. I will say one of the nice things that came out of our last strategic plan was, and you guys have probably gone through these in your agencies, a lot of times the community's tendencies is to build new, build new, build new. We were all very pleasantly surprised when we went out to ours, and a very large majority of our taxpayers said, take care of what you got. So that was kind of a refreshing, right, from a Parks and Rec professional standpoint of they're not necessarily asking us to build new. They want us to invest money to take care of what we have.
And that's true of Apex. We went and toured a lot of rec centers, but Apex, that was like a 20-year-old facility, wasn't it? The one that I toured.
Yeah, so that was built in 1994.
Oh, wow. So 30?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember the fun fact, but at the time it was the largest rec center west of the Mississippi. So when it was built, it was a pretty big deal, but it's still a pretty big deal. Not only do we have professionals come and check it out at rec camp, things like that, but it's very much a regional draw here in Colorado.
People had a huge indoor pool.
Yep.
facility had indoor hockey, right?
Yep.
Weight room, kid zone. There was like some,
Basketball courts.
yep, there was retail stuff, right? Like you could also like get like restaurants, or was there some shopping spices?
Yeah, so there used to be, we used to have a cafe and stuff kind
That's
of
what it
built in
was.
there, but we've repurposed that kind of over the years. Because,
Gotcha.
when things were built in the 90s, like things have evolved. As you probably recall, like the fitness area is big,
Yeah.
but it could be loads bigger. But when it was built in the 90s, fitness in a recreation center was very much an afterthought. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, people are going to go to 24-hour, go to curves or what have you. And no, we play a very big role in fitness and parks and recreation now.
Back to the bonding real quick. There's a fear, I think, with a lot of agencies when they do that, especially if they don't go out to bond regularly, that it's going to fail. So what are the chances that you put together that beautiful package you did in 2018? Like, how overwhelmingly did that pass? I mean,
very overwhelmingly, but it was a roots effort. It was a lot of education. So at the time, and the bond was happening before I started, but as I understand it at the time, I mean, our board of directors were cold calling people, like getting their support. It was really strategic in how we did that too. It wasn't just, oh, hey, we need a new rec center, or oh, hey, we think we need this. It was really engaging different parts of the public to find out what different parts of Arvada wanted. And so Fitzmaurice Recreation, for example, one of the facilities I manage, there used to be a pool in the community that was just loved to death, but it literally was super old and it was sinking and they had to tear it down. And so for that particular neighborhood, building an outdoor pool was super, super important to them. Activating our tennis group and getting them a brand new tennis facility that's state of the art, that's won a bunch of these awards, super important. So it wasn't just staff being like, oh, well, I think we need a bunch of pickleball courts, or I think we need this, or we think we need that. It was very strategic in that we met the community where they were. We had a lot of public engagement, and we had a lot of insight into like, okay, should we do this? So we could feel like the yes vote was there. But you're right. I mean, there are certain communities that even the most pro Parks and Rec, when you start talking about either increasing people's taxes, or, we're based off of property tax. And so obviously Colorado, with the housing values exploding the way they have been very beneficial. But now our legislators saying, oh, hold on, we got to put a pause on this. That's a challenge for us. So it really is a lot of educating the public and really preaching the value of parks and recreation. Because again, I think we impact our community so much. And I think some people understand that, but I think some people don't realize just how important we are in our communities. But you'll get me started on being an essential service. Like, I'll go on a soapbox. That's another podcast.
It is. But it's a great point. I'm with you.
I think we all agree with that one.
Yeah, and there's definitely an art to engaging your community and telling a story, and not everybody necessarily masters it.
Well, and I think it's too is understanding that the loudest voice isn't necessarily the right voice, right? Like, of course, we know this, right? Our pickleball communities are gonna rally. Our ice community, when the strategic plan went out, totally rallied to be like, we need more ice, right? So we know that that's going to happen. But it's really kind of getting into those communities and getting a real solid understanding of what it is that they want, not just the loudest person kind of gets what they want.
Hillary, I mentioned in the intro that you have presented alongside some former guests, and you present regularly, and you had Colorado conference last month, and you were at the Arizona conference a couple months ago. Is there a favorite session or topic that you really enjoy doing more than others? Or is there, if you're going to submit one tomorrow, like what's your go-to session right now?
That's tough, because I really actually only present about things that I'm kind of truly passionate about. But I think because over my career has evolved so much that I have a lot of different experience in a lot of different areas. And so Erin Kuhn, who you guys had on not too long ago, her and I did one on releasing your niche. And we talked about our journeys coming from something very specialized, her from sports, myself from fitness, and how we evolved into these larger roles and are now, if you would have told me even 10 years ago, I would have been managing aquatics, I would have laughed at you. But what a great learning experience has been for me. So I really like being able to share my story there. I also do a presentation. When I started at Apex, we had a lot of members of our community from our LGBTQ plus community looking for us to provide programming. And so we've run a very successful Pride Night. And so I do a presentation on LGBTQ inclusion and how you can make just really small impacts in your community. And I really love that presentation because it's really meant to start a dialogue. I do not pretend to be a subject matter expert in all things LGBTQ, but it's just being able to start that conversation. I did that one recently in Arizona, and we actually like ran out of time. And and I was like, oh my gosh, I have another presentation. I have to go. So I had to like run out of there. But when I left, there were still people behind talking about what they can do in their communities and challenge. And so I think that that's what I find most gratifying about being able to present is like, I don't pretend to be the expert on all things, but I just want to start that conversation and start that dialogue and just talk about like how minor changes can make huge impacts in people's lives. So I love them all. I love the ones I do on leadership, but those are the ones that I come out of there like so buzzed and so excited that we've just started a dialogue that like, I don't know, it just makes me really excited.
So Jay had talked about how you overcame not wanting to be a speaker, right? I think there are people out there, and I don't like presenting, and these two knuckleheads have got me out more and more. But I think there are people out there with a story to tell, and they are allowing their fear or their whatever concern they have preventing them from doing that. What would you tell someone that you think that has a story that they could really tell? It could really make an impact, but their concern is they don't want to do it, or they'll look embarrassed, or they'll mess up. How would you able to convince them to take the leap and start speaking?
Yeah, so one of the things I tell any new presenter is just remember that when you're up there, be confident and remember that you're the subject matter expert. People are up there to hear what you have to share. I think what I really enjoy about speaking at state conferences, I think they're a great kind of place to start, is that every single person in there is a Parks and Rec professional. None of us, I don't think any of us went to school to be a professional public speaker. I don't think any of us are making, to my knowledge, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Tom's doing pretty good speaking now. Tom's got a little thing.
All right. Well, I have to get a couple insights from him. But I think for the majority of us, right, we are just up there to tell our story. And so I just always remind first-time presenters, like, it's okay. Like, they're your peer. These are your peers, right? Nobody's going to get up there and kind of ridicule you. And if you mess up, like that happens, like own it and just kind of move forward. I was fortunate in that, as Jay mentioned, I've been super active within CPRA and I've served different capacities with the state association. And probably the best thing I could have ever done was be the awards chair. So the awards chair every year gets up in front of pretty much the entire association and presents the awards. And actually, my good friend Erin Kuhn, she decided this was our brainchild of like, we're going to be like the Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, and we're going to be so funny. And then she got pregnant and had a baby and left me to do it by myself. And I was terrified. I remember kind of walking in there, looking at the room of empty seats because I went for a test run and I was like, I walked right back out. I'm like, I can't do this. And they're like, yes, you can. And it's honestly the best thing I could have done because it's like I got up there, I faced my fear. And now it's like my most favorite thing to do. So I can't imagine a life where I'm not going around and at least, doing these presentations. Like I love going to other conferences and learning what professionals in other states are doing. I love learning from other people. And then I just love the relationships that you create. I've met so many cool professionals along the way. And it feels like, I've gone to Arizona pretty much every year for the last couple of years. And every year I pick up a few more people and then I might see them at the national conference. And so just continuing that, I think it's a really just rewarding and enriching thing. But, I will say Apex has always been really good on the professional development front. So even our young professionals, when they first start with us, one of the first things they have to do is get up and introduce themselves and talk in front of our board. We're really big on like at our all staff meetings, our current executive director, instead of the director getting up there and giving a staff update or a program update, we elect another one of our professionals to do it. So we're always trying to get them kind of in that habit. But I remind most Parks and Rec professionals, we are public speakers, whether you think you are or not. If you've ever had to sub a class, if you've got an angry group of people that want to know why they're not getting court time, you are a public speaker.
That's it. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It starts with our job. That's what we have to do. And then you might be doing summer camp training. That might be one of the first, public speaking other than actually running a program that you're doing. And you don't even think twice about it. It's second nature because that's your program. But then when you go into this beast of a conference or whatever it is, I would just add to what Hillary said and just say, start small. If it's something that worries you, maybe do something like this, like a podcast to hone in on maybe an audience that you're comfortable with. And what I told an individual yesterday when we were talking is if you're in a room of 100 individuals, 50 individuals, 30, whatever the number is, just remember they came to that room to hear you, to hear that topic. And for the most part, Shane probably can attest to this. If they're in that room, most of those individuals really don't want to be up there speaking, right? They want to be in the seat listening. And so, it's very important to understand that your audience is there for you. They're there to support you. I agree with you 100%, Hillary. And our colleagues are some of the best in any profession you can imagine how great and welcoming and warm they are.
Ryan Leak, not Leaf, Leak, he's a speaker, talked about how sometimes you just have to do it regardless of what you're feeling. Like if you're nervous, you just do it nervous. If you're hungry, you do it hungry. If you're uncomfortable because you didn't get a great night's sleep, or Tom and I drove up. I picked Tom up at the airport in Dallas, and we drove into Oklahoma, and we had we essentially got there like 35, 40 minutes before our first session. So you just do it rushed. I would much rather have had 3 hours to sit and think and do all those things, but it still had to be done. And so, at least for me, you just have to do it how it takes what it takes, right? You got to do it hungry or scared or rushed or tired or uncomfortable. It still has to be done, so.
Yeah, I always encourage people too, if they're scared, like there's a co-present. I think that's a great start, right? Because if you're freaking out, huge. Like you can lean on somebody else, right? But pick somebody you have that good rapport with and good relationship, where it feels like a very natural thing versus a very practice thing. I'm not one of those that does, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm not one of those that does a whole lot of prep ahead of time, because the more rehearsed I feel, the more it's not organically who I am. But you got to pick what works for you.
Yeah, I think co-presenting is a great first step, but I'd also say I used to room host and just have to be the person introducing the speaker. And I'd never liked public speaking before, but that was my gradual, okay, I'll get more comfortable. I'm going to do an introduction and then I'll co-present, and now I present, and I love it. The energy, the excitement I get post session is unlike anything else. So I'm with you 100% on that one, Hillary. So let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to move over to our rapid fire. Just a couple quick questions for you. First thing that comes to mind, and I'm going to kick it off. I know you mentioned you love to run, and I'm also an avid runner. So I'm just curious, is there a specific race that you've done that's been your favorite, or one that you do every year that's your favorite?
Colorado Marathon is my favorite. It's up in Fort Collins. I went to Colorado State University, so that's kind of my home, not my hometown, but my home college town. It's a beautiful run. They bust you up and you get to run through the Cooter Canyon. It is in May, so you never know what you're going to get weather-wise. It's snowed a couple years I've done it. It's rained. It's been 90 degrees. So you don't know what you're going to get in Colorado in May, but it is one that I sign up for and I look forward to pretty much every year. I am running a very silly 16-miler up in the mountains this weekend, and it has the potential to either be the worst thing I've ever done in my life or the best. So I'll have to get back to you.
What's the name of the canyon?
Cooter Canyon.
Cooter Canyon. Okay.
Let's go to the beginning of the show. We talked about Thanksgiving tradition. Is there one that you have that you just absolutely love? And, there are probably people out there who don't love Thanksgiving too.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So growing up as a kid, Thanksgiving wasn't really big in our family. I don't come from a very large family. I have 0 cousins on either side. That's another kind of, I don't know if that's a fun fact, but it's a fact. It's strange. People don't believe it when I say it. So growing up, it wasn't a big deal. But when I met my now husband, it's a huge deal in his family. And so we look forward to it every year. One of the traditions his dad set forth and that my husband has continued is every year we play some kind of game, and it's a silly, just made up game. And there's no prize, right? Except to say, oh, I won Thanksgiving. But I always look forward to whatever silliness they come up with. So this year it was a list of the top 24 or 2024 things people talked about. And we had to write a haiku to talk about, to illustrate what we wanted. And then the second part of that was we had to make the Taylor Swift bracelets that fit into the theme of our haiku. So really stupid, but really fun and something we all look forward to.
Well, I would have been bad at that game. I didn't know Taylor Swift had bracelets, so I would have been in trouble. What was something we've asked and talked about before? What is something that is a daily habit or ritual for you that you could never do without?
I start my morning, most mornings, exercising. So for me, it's my way to kind of level set my day, kind of clear my head. I don't necessarily like block it in my work schedule, but my staff knows if they try to call me between 7:30 and like 9, they're probably going to get a denied, and I'm going to probably say, hey, I'm out for a run, or hey, I'm working out. Is it critical? And so they know I'm going to answer, but they know that that's what I'm doing. So that is something that really helps me just kind of start my day, gets me off on the right, puts me in a good mood. So I gotta have it.
We're just like, I got the same answer for
I
a
know.
lot of things
It's
that
a
you've been
female
saying.
version of you. It's
I know, I like
ridiculous.
it.
Why we get along?
That's right.
Now, I'm curious to this one then. If you were not in Park and Rec, what do you think you'd be doing as a career?
So I think before my mother-in-law found the clipping in the paper, like I was saying, I came from a clinical setting before. I was in cardiac rehab. And I really liked the idea of helping people like kind of get back on their feet. And I always liked like the health and fitness side of things. My degree is in health and exercise science. So it's something I've always been passionate about. I was kind of tapped out there. There wasn't much career growth for me, and I was ready for the next thing. So I was actually putting together some paperwork to go back to school to become a physical therapist. So I think there's probably a good chance I would have landed probably somewhere in physical therapy, occupational therapy, something like that. If money, however, were like no object and I could just do whatever, my dream job and my retirement job will be to drive the beer cart at a golf course.
I thought you were going to say physical education because that's Jay's, right? Jay, you would have been a PE teacher.
I probably would have been a teacher.
It's tough.
Yeah.
The kids, I love me, the kids, but COVID taught me anything as I'm not set up to be a teacher.
Yeah.
You've obviously done a lot of presenting, and we talked about the state conferences. Do you have a favorite state conference that you've attended? And I don't want you to, we don't need to belittle any of the other states in their associations, just because it was such a cool experience. You love the state, whatever reason.
So, I mean, obviously, I have to shout out Colorado Parks and Rec because we do it the best, but I probably shouldn't pick my home state.
That was my caveat that I didn't say.
I have to say, gosh, I love Arizona. I go every year, but I had such a blast in Minnesota. So John invited me out to Minnesota back in 2021, and I absolutely loved their professionals. I made so many like social media friends kind of after that. I stay in contact with a lot of these people. I actually just presented athletic business a couple weeks ago, and one of the directors who I met came up to me after the presentation. I was like, "It's me. How's it going?" So I had a blast in Minnesota. They know how to have a real fun time out there, and they're very engaged professionals. So I'd like to get back out there, but gosh, they're so darn close to our conference. It's tough, but maybe next year's the year.
That's a social group. Now, don't curse at your session, but you can suck the air out of the room. It's a social group.
Luckily, I'm pretty good about not doing that. Yeah.
I don't think most people have that problem.
I do.
I know.
I did learn about their Minnesota, like the Minnesota
nice.
That was too stressful for me. I was like, I got a plane to catch, John. Like, let's wrap this thing up.
Get it going.
Yeah.
So not Fort Collins, because that's still in the state of Colorado, but any other place you've lived outside the state of Colorado that you couldn't drive to fairly quickly, what meal do you miss? Like whether it was in Washington or Illinois or any of the other stops along the way, like, man, that I wish I could get a good blank from wherever's restaurant or sandwich shop, and I never can. No one can make that blank here. I can't get that same experience.
I mean, I think for Washington State, Seattle area, nobody does seafood better, like a good old like crab roll or something. I know it's not anything compared to our folks on the East Coast, but I do miss the freshness of the seafood. It's good here in Colorado, but it does make you think twice because like, well, where did this come from? Or how long has this been here? So I do miss some good piece of salmon from Seattle.
Just, I got to ask, favorite movie snack? We asked earlier. Can't let you go without that one.
Yeah, I don't eat a whole lot at the movies, but I kind of like me a Sour Patch Kid.
Okay.
I'm with you.
That's a good one. I can get behind that. Awesome. Well, Hillary, this has been fantastic. We appreciate you spending the time and, getting to dive into your world a little bit more and talking about aquatics. Because, I know it was mentioned earlier, we don't talk as much about aquatics as we probably could. And seeing your facility online in the video, I was super impressed and would love to get a trip out there and see it in person one day.
Yeah, I would love for you guys to come and visit. And thank you so much for having me. Jay knows this. I've been itching to get on this show for quite some time.
Well, we talked about you for a while. Other episodes we've talked. I thought Aaron was you in my guessing of Aaron. I thought, I think this is Hillary. So
literally sought Jay out at NRPA with the sole purpose to be like, I want to get on your podcast.
How do we got to do this? Love it.
That's awesome.
While y'all were running
Now-
at 5 a.m. or something, right?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I know, and now we can't have Shane just guess next time it's Colorado. He's not going to just guess Hillary, because I think he probably guessed that any time.
Yeah, my
So.
quick guess is gone now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I need to
Somebody
get
else.
harder with the hints. I need to come up with some more challenging ones so he doesn't get it so early.
Yeah, that was
So,
fun.
but Hillary,
Yeah.
thank you so much,
Yes.
and look forward to seeing how you guys grow even more in that facility and everything else going on in Apex, and look forward to other episodes of Apex activated as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great rest of your holiday season, and we'll see you hopefully soon.
See ya.
Awesome. Take
Thanks,
care.
Hillary. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's crazy to think that she doesn't like speaking. She's
yeah.
an
Good.
incredible
It's
speaker.
great.
And sometimes people can speak, but they can't speak with, they're not bringing you a lot of facts. They're just, they can just ramble on, and maybe they land it. She was knowledgeable. I guess that's what I was trying to get to. Like, not only is she a
Yeah.
good speaker, like she can hold a conversation, but she can actually deliver whatever she's trying to deliver. She's a very knowledgeable speaker as well. So I've never been to a session of hers. I have visited a facility of hers, and I heard her speak at that facility. They brought a bunch of professionals in, and she spoke with incredible speaker for sure.
I went to her session in Phoenix that was alongside Maria, and it was like a packed house. And it was one of the biggest rooms of the conference. So it was awesome to see
What was
them
it?
shine. What's that?
What topic?
Well, I think it was also John was in that one too, if I remember correctly. I think it was the three of them. And it's funny, when I said earlier that she's presented amongst two of our previous guests, I was thinking John and Maria. I wasn't even thinking about Aaron. And then obviously, she's presented with Aaron probably many times. I'm assuming not just at Colorado, but in other states that are nearby that she attends.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great conversation. I've heard her name so many times, and obviously never had the opportunity to meet and talk. And the aquatics piece, just talking about that, what is really great. I mean, it's amazing, right? About our show. This is episode 57, and we haven't had a conversation about aquatics yet. And what a great way to start, and how informative, as Shane mentioned. I learned so much about aquatics because we don't focus in that realm. We program aquatics, but we have nothing to do with the operations and the facilities. I will also just add, I love connections that we have from our shows. You had mentioned how Hillary had presented with some individuals. So Shane, you asked Hillary a quick hitter question about, where's she going to eat? Where's something she can't get in Colorado or whatever? So, fun fact for the definitely only one listener that's still with us right now, John Stutzman, former guest, sends us a text message photo yesterday or the day before, and it's this delicious looking brisket sandwich with, I think, pickles and some gooey melted cheese. It looked really great, right up my alley.
It's an abomination.
To Shane, that is not, but to me, it looks perfect. And it was from Joe's Barbecue in Kansas
City. Yeah.
City. And that was from one of our episodes from
He
Nate
heard us talking about it to Nate. Yeah.
Yes. So pretty cool that someone's food story has made it to someone else, and someone got to eat one of those before we did.
Nate texted me during the podcast and said, I heard you got a picture of the Z-Man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Awesome.
Yes. The sandwich is called the Z-Man, right?
Yep.
Look it up, everyone, or
That's
one
really
person.
Cool. Well,
that
if
was
there's
fun.
anything that someone takes away that's not Park and Rec related, it'll probably be food related to this
100%.
episode or to any future episode.
Yeah.
We're a Parks and Rec podcast that is masquerading so we can talk about food.
I like it.
Yeah, Hillary was great.
Well,
and I'm shocked you didn't get to hang out with her, because I think I don't know about Jay, I got exposed to her from John in one of these young professional type things we were always doing, where we'd hang out and John had brought her around at one of them.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you don't know her, because I thought we all did, but I'm glad that this is now out there and you do. So this is great.
No, that was great. And when I said that I've never met her, maybe I did. I'm glad that the way she received it confirmed that because that could have happened too.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Man.
Well, hey guys, this was great, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, I got the next one.
See ya.
See you, everyone.
Later.